Right then, hello and welcome everyone to round 8 of the RRC Monday Night Racing League. So here we go. It's Monday night and we're ready for another amazing race. It's going to be a really interesting one this week. We are around Hungary. Last time out, the race winner was FT, as you can see him there in the Ferrari. Second place was LH44 and third was Tarumba. It was an amazing race around China, but what that means for the standings is that Tarumba is still in the lead on 125, LH44 on 117, just 8 points behind. It is wide open, and FT, who obviously won that race, closed the gap to just 20 points. He's now on 105. The top three are separated by 20 points. It is amazing to see. Now it's going to be really interesting to see what happens in this race. Obviously that means that the teams are just as wide open, with Mercedes on 196, Ferrari only 15 points behind, this time with Jonathan Cox back in the wheel alongside FT, and the Haas pairing, which I don't know if they've joined this race, of Tarumba and Tirash. The Tarumba is in, but I don't know if Tirash is going to be here. They are on 164, just 32 points behind. So that moves us on to this week with it all in the balance. As I've said, we are around Hungary. Hungary is what they call Monaco without walls. It is going to be an amazing race. We're going to have some real great wheel-to-wheel actions, I am sure of it. So the reason why they call it Monaco without the walls is because it is such a high downforce track, and that means that this week, if these drivers do not have their setups exactly where they need them to be, if they forget about it, if they go into the race and they don't have their setup set up, who knows what might happen. All I know is they won't be anywhere near as fast as they need to be. They won't have the grip in the corners. We've been doing a bit of practice beforehand, and already we have seen that on the hard compound tyres, these drivers just haven't got the grip that they need. It could be a two-stop race. We do not know at this point. But the reason for this being such a high downforce track is because it's tight and twisty. It's set in a valley, and it's brilliant because of that. Because if you're in the right space, if I'm honestly going to be saying this, if you are going to want to go to a Grand Prix at all in the next couple of years, obviously post-COVID, I'd suggest the Hungary ring, because if you're in the right place, you can see 80% of the circuit. That is an amazing amount of racing to be able to watch from just one vantage point. But of course, that tight and twisty track does mean that it can catch drivers out on occasion. With Gary71, as you can see there in the Alfa Romeo, even stating before this race that he always messes this up. I really hope for him that he can get onto this track and really manage to figure it out one way or another this time round. But there are other drivers who are looking forward to this. So this Grand Prix itself, the Hungarian Grand Prix, was first held in August of 1986, and it was the best way that Bernie Ecclestone, the great man himself, could find a way past the Iron Curtain. He tried to get Moscow, couldn't at the time, and so now we have the Hungarian Grand Prix, and it has been on the calendar ever since. Obviously, you know, that means that we had it last year, and last year Lewis Hamilton became joint most... He managed to win the Grand Prix for the 8th time, and that is the joint most amounts of wins in a single circuit. Of course, who's he tied that with? None other than Michael Schumacher. Will he go on to break that record like he has many others in the next year? We don't know. But as I said, 2020, it meant that he won. He got pole from an amazing dominant lap of a 1:13.4, and then he went to win his 8th time around Hungarian Grand Prix along the sides of the likes of Verstappen and Bottas, like he did so many times last year. But in the process of that win, he went and broke, I'd say shattered, the lap record by over half a second with a stunning 1:16.6. The year before, Verstappen had the lap record of a 1:17. That was an amazing difference, and it just shows the power of these F1 cars that we have in 2020 on this game. So, the other driver who made a big standing around the Hungaroring, I'd like to point out one George Russell. In 2018, the young star made his mark in the Mercedes with an unofficial lap record of a 1:15.5. That's 4/10 faster than Vettel had managed in the race of that year. So, and that wasn't just against no one, that was against the likes of Raikkonen, Giovinazzi and Norris, who were also in that test. That was an amazing feat. Of course, Hamilton then went out in that race the next year and broke the record himself, but the rest was history, as everyone says. On the game itself, the lap record around this track in time trials is a 1:11.9. That is a whole 2 seconds faster than Hamilton's pole. That's a crazy time. Will we see it being broken this weekend? I'm not sure. I don't think we will, because obviously tracks are different, the track temperatures are different, but what will be really interesting to see is exactly how well it does go. We have got some really fast drivers on this grid, as anyone will know having watched previous videos or previous races, even ones that are in for the rest of the days during the week. Some of these drivers are in those, the likes of Jonathan Cox, for example, and him in particular. He was really looking forward to tonight. Throughout the whole day, him and LH44 were swapping banter as exactly who was going to be fastest around this track, who was going to be facing who, and I think it'll be a really amazing battle to see up in the top sort of 5, I'd say, of the grid today. So, will they or won't they? Well, or we could see a brand new winner. This track in itself has brought 3 world champions their first win, at the likes of Button, Damon Hill and Fernando Alonso. So could we see a brand new winner coming to RRC this week? Or maybe they won't even sit on pole. That's the really interesting difference between the Hungarian Grand Prix and Monaco, is that we could see a completely different winner from anywhere on the grid. Jenson Button, in his first victory in 2006 in the Hungarian Grand Prix, he won the race from 14th. Now, obviously, these drivers, they are, I'd say, a lot closer in some areas and a lot further away in others, so the top 5 will be quite close to each other, and then maybe 6th, 7th onward will be in a certain group, and then the back markers will be in another. Obviously, I think at the moment we've only got 12 drivers currently on the grid. So it will be interesting to see how low down that the different groups will be. But who knows? You can just have one person getting a bad race or a bad qualifying. I think last time out we had LH44 down in, like, I think he was 8th or 9th, but one bad qualifying and they just have to build their way back up. It is not impossible around the Hungaroring with 2 DRS zones and 2 amazing braking zones coming very quickly afterwards. But as we know, just like Monaco, this race can throw people sideways as well, as Ferrari know way too well. So this is a really rare stat, seeing as the fact that Ferrari, as we all know, have been a part of the F1 calendar for an age, since its very conception. Now, even though that's the case, and so they're obviously on the grid in the 1986 first Grand Prix, it took until 1999 for both Ferrari cars to reach the checkered flag in the same race. It's ridiculous. It's unheard of. Obviously, in modern times, we see that Vettel and Leclerc were struggling at points, but that doesn't mean that they didn't finish the same race year on year on year. Will we see that this time? We've got Jonathan Cox and FT, 2 of the fastest drivers in this catalogue. Will they finish the race together, or will they continue Ferrari's obvious bad luck around this track? So we have got 12 ready. We are just waiting for one more, I believe. But some notable moments around the Hungaroring. A few of you may remember last year, Verstappen in the wet. This is a very, I'd say, wet weather around the Hungaroring goes together like cheese and onion. It is quite common. So if we get a wet race, would it throw things up? Of course it will. But one thing it did to Verstappen last year is it meant he lost steering going into the final set of corners and went straight into the barrier. Now, a few of you may recall this, but let me retell it for you. Goes into the barrier. He's thinking his race is over. You can see he's broken his front wing. You can see there's an issue with the tyre. All of a sudden he gets a radio message through. No. Come to the front of the grid. We'll see what we can do. Of course, I think he was starting 4th that day. Within 20 minutes, Red Bull managed to pull off a miracle. Took his wheel off, and they completely redid his front suspension. His front steering arm, I think, was broken. His wishbone was okay, so it meant that the car structurally was fine. It was just one steering arm needed to replace. And we watched and we waited to see what might happen. And it was incredible. Within 20 minutes, he managed to go and completely fix this car. It was mesmerising to watch, and it just showed this pure skill that Red Bull and their pit crew had. Honestly, I don't think I've seen another feat of engineering as amazing as that in my entire 15 years of watching F1. But of course that meant he then managed to go and finish 2nd in the race, which is an amazing feat in itself. But of course, another very different, very completely changing the head, I'd say, of the tone of notable moments around here is that obviously this was also the location of Felipe Massa's freak accident during the qualifying of the 2009 race. Of course, Spring came up from Barrichello's brawn, hit him on the head, knocked out completely. Quite scary. Of course, we all know Massa managed to get out of the car. He was completely fine. Obviously, he had a bit of concussion, and he meant that he was also out of the remainder of the 2009 series, but he came back, and in 2010 miraculously managed to not only finish his first race, but also finish on the podium in his first race back for Ferrari. But yeah, so 2009 was a bit of a worry for Ferrari, again there, having bad luck around this track. So we are currently waiting to start up. I think the host of the lobby, which is Jake Lee today in the McLaren, we're just currently waiting for him to come back. I think we're currently waiting for 8:05. But yeah, really interesting Grand Prix this will be. It'll be interesting to see how or when we get any safety cars, because as we know, this is the kind of league that you have very differing driver skill levels, and a track like this can catch people out quite a lot. So it'll be interesting to see if we get any safety cars, and whether or not they're going to throw anything up. Another thing, as we've already spoke about, is weather. Weather around this track is common, whether we see it halfway through the race, whether we see it at the start, and how that changes driver strategies not only in qualifying but also in the race. We saw last time out in China different drivers choosing to start on mediums or on softs, and that can really impact both your start but also how you end up throughout the race. This could be a one-stop race. However, due to the fact that the hards are so unpredictable around this track, and with weather being thrown in, it could become a 2, maybe even a 3, obviously safety cars thrown into that as well. Who knows what may happen around this track. Back to real life, what might happen in terms of the season as we have ahead of us. As we've said, Hamilton has got his 8th win already around this track. It's again another equalled record with Michael Schumacher. Will he go on and beat that? Will he go on and beat Michael Schumacher's whole record of managing to win the championship 7 times? Will he get his 8th? Will he retire afterwards? Who knows? 2021 season is almost upon us. We have reached the 1st of March today, so who knows what might happen. It'll be really interesting. Obviously, we've got the Mercedes car launch tomorrow. We think a lot of the cars are going to look fairly similar, but the downforce is going to be changed quite a lot. One of the great things about this game is the fact that these cars, we can already feel, are as fast as we are going to get them. They are incredible around this track, and honestly, you'll see it in the qualifying just exactly how well these cars can be hooked up. But we are ready to go. People are starting to activate, and we're waiting another 30 seconds before we get going. There are 12 drivers in this race, so people are really on for plenty of points. Be interesting to see exactly who can be getting pole today, who can be getting in the top 10. We've got a lot of midfield runners, but some really fast guys around here, both Jonathan Cox, FT, Tarumbar, and even LH44, who is down here. They could all be vying for pole. It will be really interesting to see. So as we get underway today, oh, it's going to be a good one. So if this is your first time joining us here at RRC, what I would suggest you go and do after you've watched this race is check out some of our other videos, some of the other races, because honestly there are some crackers out there. The battling in this series, I'd honestly say, is exactly what you wish for when you go and play F1. A lot of people complain about the F1 online series of just people dive bombing, but not in league racing. If you really want some great content on watching people's driving and being able to analyze people's driving so you can try and improve yourself, I know for me, for a fact, I've been getting some amazing pointers just watching these guys. Watch the likes of Jonathan Cox, see how he gets his entry speed and his exit speed, see how early he gets on the power. Watching guys like that is only going to improve your driving. But if you just want to watch, go ahead. It is some phenomenal racing around this track, and it'll be some phenomenal racing if you go and watch some other videos as well. So here we are. We are in the paddock. No one is currently out, which is fine. I'm going to set up while we're here. Let's have a look. Best. No, we want fitted. I want to see what people start and end on. We've got some telemetry and lap data. It's always interesting to see how people are using their ERS or how people are using their DRS if they're activating, because you can see then and there whether someone has backed out. But we want the full track map as well. As you can see there, you've got a sweeping corners going in sector 2, but a lot of hairpins as well. Those braking zones into turn 1 and turn 2, as we see our first person optics go out on the soft tyres. That is brave. I'm unsure exactly what these guys are seeing in terms of their weather, so these guys might go on to mediums a bit later, but we'll soon see as we see his outlap. One thing I would say about outlaps, you won't really see it here at the moment, it's just about getting your tyres ready. You want to make sure that these tyres are optimal range for when you start your lap. As we've seen there though, and something I do want to touch on, as it is in normal F1, track limits here are really ruthless. It's really important that you manage to get the most out of your lap without pushing too much and getting over those curbs too much. If you do, you'll invalidate your lap, and honestly guys, you really want to be getting your first lap nailed with these soft tyres, otherwise they start losing time and you start losing time in only an 18-minute session. So let's see, Optic starting his first flying lap. Let's see how he does as he goes down towards turn 1. DRS wide open. Let's see, it's a very deep braking zone. Is he going to get the apex? It's a bit of understeer, but he gets the apex as he comes out nice and early onto the power. You go onto that curve, that's completely fine. You want to be maximising the tarmac as much as possible as you go down into turn 2. This is a really understeery corner. Don't get too much of that curve because you'll end up spinning, and then we get into the probably my favourite, I should say, section of corners. You could very easily do your track limits here. Again, don't get too much onto the curb. Nice exit speed, yes, well done for Optics. He's doing really well here. Onto the chicanes, and you go around those nicely. Don't get too much curb, otherwise you lose too much time. Again here, you want to be touching the curbs quite a lot. As you see, Tarumbar, I think it is, get out the way, because you want to maximise the speed, and it doesn't really affect how much grip you have on those tyres as you get onto those curbs. There's a yellow flag up ahead, but I think it's just some guys getting out of the way. I really hope it is, because it can get quite congested going into this final couple of sections. Right, he's touched the curb there, but it's not too bad. He's got a lot of exit speed. So let's see what this first time is going to be. He's going to set the standard for everyone else as he gets a nice exit speed. He goes up to the line. This is a 1:15.5. Not bad. As we said, the lap record during a race was a 1:15. So it is not a bad time there from Optics. Let's go down to Jonathan Cox, who I believe is also on a nice lap. So he's currently around turn 2, going into turn 3. It's a nice line through there. He's again on soft tyres. These guys have gone straight out onto the soft. They've not tried to bother with the to waste any time. Oh, that was close. He is fastest through the first sector. Let's see where he ends up compared to Optics as he goes through the chicane. That's an amazing set of corners there. You don't want to get too much curb, as I said previously. He's got a much wider angle through that turn there as he goes into sector 3 after this corner. Let's see, he's down to turn 12 now. Is again fastest, a 52 seconds should say. Sector 2, let's see as he goes round this penultimate corner. It's a very wide angle there, he's gone very deep there. But let's see if he can maximise his exit speed as he goes through the final corner. He gets on the power very early. Let's see, it's a 1:12, 13, 14, 0. That is incredible. What a time. Again guys, these guys are ridiculously fast. It's interesting that we've got FT here onto the medium tyres. He's having a different strategy to everyone else. It's going to be interesting to see how this guy does. Everyone else is in the pits now, or on their in lap I believe. Oh, I've missed Tarumbar going 1:13.8. That is ridiculous. 1:13.8. Wow. Right, let's see how FT does going around into the final sector. He's just in the middle of sector 2 now. Oh, he's invalidated his lap. You see guys, you push it a little bit too much and you've messed up your lap. It's a shame because I do think he'd want to see how he managed to do on those medium tyres, but he has invalidated his lap. He was doing it a fair bit in practice, however practice does not always make perfect, as we can see. Is he going to go for a third lap? He is going to go for a third lap. That is interesting. Let's see, what would he have done? There's a 1:15.6. That would have put him 5th, which is not a bad lap on a medium tyre. So he might go and try and do it again. As we see, Tarumba is heading towards the pits. Let's see, Grimo, he's out currently. He's going towards the pits as well. Jake Lee's gone for another lap. He's about a second and a half down on Gary at the moment. So it'll be interesting to see if he can get any closer. He's currently on 2 lap old soft tyres. If I was him, I'd have probably pitted. He's probably not going to go any faster on that tyre at the moment, but it is good to just keep getting practice and get wired into this circuit. As I said, because it's a high downforce track, you need to get every corner perfect. As we saw there with FT, it was a fast lap, but it sadly was not enough. Let's see, LH44 is currently on a faster time. Let's see if he can challenge. He's 8/10 behind Jonathan Coxon and a second behind Tarumba. That was a mega lap from Tarumba, that was. The Haas driver showing again why he won a couple of weeks ago and why he is seriously a driver to be watched around here. That is only a couple of tenths off what Hamilton did manage around this tyre. That was too much around there. It's a shame LH44 did that. I do think his time wasn't too bad, but maybe he's going to go for another. He's only on 75% ERS. Oh, he seems to have absolutely no grip on those back tyres of his. Maybe his setup's a bit weird, but it's on part firme now, so this is the setup he's with. Let's see, Optics is out for another outlap. You can see that Tarumba and Jonathan Cox have both changed their tyres, so it'll be interesting to see if they are going to go out for another lap. We're about halfway, almost halfway through the session now. Okay, so there's a bit of battling going on here to see who's going to go. I think Jake Lee's probably asking Optics to go past him. Don't know if Optics is sure whether he will. Jake Lee's on a fastest time. He's a second and a half down. Has he looked behind him? This is the thing about these sort of races. If you don't look behind you, you could end up blocking someone on his outlap. Yeah, so Optics has done the smart thing here and just backed off a little bit. Sometimes when you're in that situation, the best thing to do is just back off. Okay, Jake Lee's backed off as well, so he's decided to go past. Okay. As I was saying, sometimes the best thing to do is to back off and see, see how much room you can give yourself. You want to give yourself plenty. Obviously, if Jake Lee's just going to go in the pits anyway. I don't know if he is. He is, there we go. Okay, right, so we'll watch the start of Optics' lap. and see how he does. There is someone coming in. This is something you've got to be really careful of. That's Tarumbar coming out there. It's also something you've got to be really careful of when you go for a time lap, is just who's coming out the pits, but also when you're in the race. Who knows what might happen when you're in the race, because if someone's coming out, they're going to be racing you. You don't want them coming out literally at the apex of that corner, because it really can affect how well you take it, but also it could cause an incident. So we're going to watch where Jonathan Cox is. I think that's him coming out of the second to last corner now as he's going on his outlap. So Optics has done a very nice and fluid run through this second sector. We will probably see, so Jonathan Cox has definitely gone over that line. We'll see how he does in Sector 2, and then we'll nip over to Jonathan Cox, see if he can beat that pole lap. Well, that's a very fast Sector 2, he's doing well there. I think he lost some time in Sector 1, so let's see how Jonathan Cox does. He needs to make up 0.2 of a second, almost 0.3 of a second, which is an amazing amount of time to try and make up around here, but track's evolved, we do not know how it's going to go. So, as he goes around this hairpin, gets a nice exit on that corner. We'll see as he goes through Sector 2 exactly how fast. I didn't catch how much faster he was through Sector 1 there. Don't know if he was. I didn't see the purple. We'll soon see. He's on this lap quite well. He's still going for it. It's a nice line through there, just touching the curve. He's 0.3 faster. Okay, this is going to be a great battle for pole. Let's see what Tarumbar can do after him. Oh, that's a shame for Optics. He's just got a 5-place grid penalty. We'll get onto that later. Jonathan Cox round to the last corner. Let's see how much faster he's going to be. He's a 1:13.6. That is 0.2 faster. Right, onto Tarumbar, who is backing out of his fast lap. That is a shame. Right, okay, that'll be interesting to see here. So I think Tarumbar obviously got blocked somewhere, or obviously came up to traffic, which has meant he's had to back out of this lap. He does look like he's nursing his tyres, meaning that he looks like he will be going for a fast lap after this, but I'm not entirely sure. FT has managed to go third with a 14.07. So the top 3 are separated by 0.4 of a second, with Tarumbar still yet to do his fastest lap. So here we go, on to his fastest lap. Right, okay, so going down into the first corner, you want a really nice exit speed, because that's another DRS zone. It's a very deep braking zone. You touch the apex. Don't worry about going onto the curb if you do, but don't worry about it if you don't. Come down to corner 2, and he's just got a little bit of understeer there. Don't know if that's going to affect him. We'll see how he does going up to the hill and into Sector 2. Is that he's yet a 10th up on his fastest time. That is a shame. We'll stick with him for now, see if he managed to go any faster in Sector 2. But it looks, yeah, there we go. He's just lost it again on his. He's had a little moment with his back rear wheels. I think that's lost him another couple of tenths to Jonathan Cox. As I said before, you really have to be in tune with your car to get an amazing run through this circuit. If you don't, you have moments and you really struggle. Obviously, just having looked down the order now, I think he is going to pit. Yeah, he is. So having a look down the order now, obviously LH44 is out, and his outlapping is in Sector 2 at the moment. We probably will stay on board for him. Be interesting to see what happens with RRC Optics, because I know he's got a 5-place grid penalty, because obviously there seemed to be some level of blocking there going ahead, and it was him and a McLaren, which looked like Jake Lee for now, who were ahead of Tarumbar. Whether that was directly caused by Optics or whether it was an accident, we'll see after the race in the steward's room. So, as we see LH44 getting ready for his final lap, he's going wide on this last corner to maximise his exit speed to try and get as fast as possible across the line. So here we go. Look down the order ever so quickly. See, our Optics is out, but Gary's still on a medium tyre, so that's quite interesting. So he gets through the first corner fairly well. Again, not touching the outside barrier, outside curb, should say. Again, a little unsteer, same sort of issue Tarumbar seemed to have. is that it just seemed like it was just a bit understeery through some of these corners. Obviously trying to maximise the amount of... Oh, that was close. Oh, that's one of those corners you've really got to be careful with track limits on. That was close to going over, but he is a 10th up on his fastest time, which would still keep him where he is. Right, I think that was probably an issue with my connection rather than actually what happened. So, we'll carry on. So yeah, it would still keep him 4th, that extra 10th, but it is still an improvement, which is good. It's encouraging. There's only 4 tenths up. He's now 4 tenths. Yeah, 4 tenths up on his own time. Still not enough to break the top 3, but it's impressive. There's still 4 minutes left, so we will see some people go in. Okay, that's interesting. So LH44 was going 4 tenths faster and then pitted. Obviously thinking he can go faster in later stages of the race, of the qualifying, should say. So he wants to go on to fresh tyres. Who's on their outlap? Extremist and Jake Lee. So they're quite close to each other. All 3 of these are. So there's someone's going to need to back up a little bit. Gary's still on... So Gary's still on medium tyres. He's not going to do a run on softs, which is an interesting decision. But we'll see how they all go. Obviously, the Extremist is trying to back up a little bit to... I don't know what's happening here, but they're going to all need to back up a lot to get around this track as much as they want to. But we'll watch. Okay, so the Extremist, who is first in this queue to go round. Gary is right behind him. That's going to really impact his run through this track, because you don't want to be right behind someone, because your downforce, the thing is, dirty air is on this game. Your downforce will be affected by being that close behind someone, especially on a track like this. Maybe he thinks he can get some slipstream down some of the longer straights, but I don't think it's worth it. So it'll be interesting to see how Gary does here. He may be starting from the back of the grid, we don't know. But as Extremist goes round, he's looking like he's having a bit of a wobbly sort of time. That probably sounds a bit weird, but what I mean is he's a bit twitchy on the wheel, and he's not as fluid in the way he takes some of the corners. I can't tell if that's just because of the setup, or whether it's just the way he likes to drive, his constant corrections. I know Kimi Räikkönen is very similar. He'd like to make corrections rather than have it so fluid. He'd like to have the ability to make the corrections. As we see Extremist go around the penultimate corner now, we'll see how he ends up doing. Is he going to improve his time? He's not broken track limits, which is a good start. It means he will get time on the board, but where is he going to end up? So it's already a 1:12. I'm predicting probably 9th now. Yeah, so he ends up 9th, so still ahead of Gary, who obviously behind him pitted. I'm not sure why he didn't give himself the time there of just like backing off from everyone else. So Extremist seems to have messed up his lap a little bit there, so he probably won't be able to go for another run. But it is now on to the battle for pole. As we see, FT looks like he's going to be the first person across the line out of them. So we'll go into broadcast mode. As we see, Extremist has now retired from the session. Okay, that's not too bad. Red yellow flag did have to slow down for him in this game. So Tarumbar's now actually been the first to go across the line. We'll see how he does through sector 1. Then we'll go to FT. So he is 5 tenths up from his fastest time. We don't know how that's going to play out in total, but that does not look good for Tarumbar for getting pole. Remember, he needs to make up 2 tenths of a second to get Jonathan Cox there. As we see that corner going up until sector 2. Let's see how he does now going into sector 2. He's again 2 tenths up. This is not going well for the challengers. However, Tarumbar has just gone fastest in sector 3. We will now see how people are doing. LH44 is on his outlap still. Jonathan Cox is not improving. Let's see how Tarumbar does as he goes around the final corner. With Jonathan Cox not improving in sector 1, this could be crucial. He does improve, but not enough to take pole. Let's see if Jonathan Cox is going to bother. He may pull out of this just to make sure he starts on a faster tyre. I don't know if he's even going any faster Oh, he is going 2/10 up. That is incredible. Let's see FT finish this. Oh, no. So FT, again, not able to get pole position due to the fact that he broke track limits. So let's see Jonathan Cox. He rounds the final corner on pole. But let's see how much by. He's already a 10th up. He goes up by another 2/10, almost 3. That's a 1:13.3. What a lap from Jonathan Cox, back after 2 weeks out, and just showing exactly why he is the reigning champion. That pole time is faster than Lewis Hamilton's pole of 2020. That just shows exactly why he is so good, exactly the level of pace he has, and I can't wait for this race. It will be amazing. Let's have a look through the field exactly how people have done. Obviously you got FT in 3rd, LH44 in 4th, who's just spun on the final corner, so they're quite a fair bit away from each other. I think his closest rival's probably Optics, just 3/10 behind, and Super Steve. Those two are going to be right on each other's tails, but that was an amazing qualifying session. So, as we were saying, Super Steve just a little bit further behind. Obviously, Optics with that 5-place grid penalty, that could be detrimental to his race. He could actually not recover from that. But these three look like they're on perfect pace with each other, with Soz on Pat not far behind. To be honest, that midfield from 5th all the way down to 9th is only a second away from each other, really. And in fact, 10th including that. Gary's a little bit further behind, and Toon Stelling doesn't seem to have really set a time there, which is a bit strange. I'm not going to leave the session. So I wonder why Toon Stelling didn't set a time. He probably broke track limits a fair few times. I'm just looking at this Discord chat with all the drivers today. And Jonathan Cox is ecstatic. A 1:13.3. What a lap. Let's see if he can repeat that in the race. I don't know. I was about to say I don't know what's happening with the weather, and look at that, as if on cue. As we said previously, the weather is crazy here, and it looks like we're having a wet race. Not only that, but that looks like a very wet race. I don't know if it's going to dry up throughout the race. I will ask the guys what the weather report is so we can keep you guys in tune. So, weather report for the race. Let's see what the guys say, see if they're going to respond to me and let me know. But this has just been blown wide open. This could be a crazy race. So, we start off with a formation lap, as always. And formation laps are really important, purely because they just allow you to warm the tyres. Just like in real life, warming your tyres around the F1 game is really important, because it means your get off is faster. Now, I don't know how that works with the intermediate tyres, I'll be honest with you. On a soft tyre, you want to be getting to around 85, 95 as you go around the final corner, because that's when it kind of says, right, I'm going to take over now and put you in your grid slot, because then when you start off, you're in the optimal temperature. What's interesting about what we're currently seeing is Jonathan Cox has sped off compared to the likes of Trumbar and stuff. He's miles in the distance. But another factor to think about around this lap now it's intermediates, it does look very wet, I'll be honest with you. Don't know if it's going to get any wetter through the race, but it looks interesting. But yeah, one thing to remember is visibility. Just like in normal F1, this race is going to be difficult to see as you're going around some of the corners. You're going, especially down the first straight, the spray is going to be astronomical. I will try and give you a good view of exactly how bad the spray is, and I think actually the broadcast camera for that first straight is actually quite good on this game for this track. Some tracks they're a bit bad, but this one I think is quite good. So we'll probably stay on that for the start up. We'll probably stay on Jonathan Cox and hopefully be able to catch any drama if it happens. But this is going to be an amazing race. So, here we go. Here's the predicted tyre strategy. So I was going to say, these intermediate tyres do last usually about, I'd probably say, They can last about 20 laps if you push them. Obviously, it's a 35 lap race. If I was them, I'd, as the thing said, I'd probably pit around lap 15, get about halfway, pit, and then go back onto inters. That is if the intermediate weather stays. You don't want to be going further than about 23 on the intermediates, because that's puncture territory. You can really end up messing up your race if you get a puncture. So, I think we are almost ready. Ready? Okay, here we go. And it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lights. Let's see how long waiting. It's straight out and it's straight off the box. Let's see where people are going up to. Right, obviously this is messed up a little bit. LH44 is in the lead though. Where is Jonathan Cox? I know he's out in the lead. Where's LH44? They're right next to each other. Again, still straight off the line. Battling. What has happened to Jonathan Cox as we see him go through that pack? At the moment, I'm not trusting the one on the left-hand side. I wouldn't trust the one on the left-hand side at the moment, guys, because it is not correct. We'll wait until we go past, I think, the first section. It'll correct itself. I can see there you've got Tarumbar behind Jonathan Cox there. FT has fallen back, but LH44 from 4th to 1st in the first corner. That is an amazing getaway. Here we go. Right, so Tarumbar, FT, Super Steve, Optics again has managed to get straight up to P6. Oh, he's up to P5. Let's have a look how that battling's going. Oh, he's off in the corner. There we go. Okay, so obviously Optics had to get to the off the track in order to make that pass, but he's right behind Super Steve and Extremist. This is probably the closest battle on track as we see Toonstelling. Oh, he's fighting with Zozompat, his teammate. This is getting a bit feisty as we see Gary go up on the inside. That is a crazy move from Gary. I would not be risking that this early on in the race. Right, let's have a look at the track. We see Optics still right behind Extremist, who is right behind Super Steve. Again, I'm not trusting the times there quite on the right hand side there, as we see LH44 cross the line again. I think it's messing up a little bit, it is, but we'll see how it goes. Sozenpat's gone straight into the pits, obviously got some damage somewhere along the line. So I've just had a bit of news given to me, and about 15 to 20 minutes of rain. It could dry up through the race. This is going to get really interesting. So Jonathan Cox is right behind LH44. Is Tarumbar in first? No, he's definitely in third. It's just it's not correct. There we go. It's not corrected itself. So as we look down the line, this is still the closest battle. I've seen Grimo is going at Jake Lee there at the back. But at the moment, I think this is one we want to stick to, as we see Jonathan Cox is just all up in the rear diffuser. I know the pit strategy, but there we go. It could be a one-stop or a two-stop. Now, if it was dry, I'd definitely suggest two-stop, but if the rain is going to go in about 15 to 20 minutes, I'd be going one-stop every day of the week. I'd be going straight onto the mediums at about lap 16, 17. Let's see, depends on how easily it dries up. That could be a warning there for Jonathan Cox. He's right in the diffuser, in the rear diffuser of LH44. Let's see if he can get a good exit on this last corner. He's gone a bit wider just to try and maximise his downforce. He's put on the power early, but he's just had a bit of a moment. A bit too early that power was going into that last corner. He's not able to take him into this corner unless he goes a proper dive bomb, but in the wet, it's just not a good idea. He's getting a bit close. We'll soon see. No, that's still too far back. We see Tarumbar he's backed off a fair bit from him. And FT has just spun. We've gone in just the right time for FT. He's spun. Oh, that is such a shame. He's going to be stuck there for a while. He obviously got... Oh, that was a close one. He got too greedy onto the curb there. And he just took too much, and it ended up ruining his day. So FT out of the running, maybe. We don't know what's going to happen with the rain. That could really set things up. Toonstelling there, he's really struggling with these wet tyres. Jake Lee's just up behind him. Oh, as we see Jonathan Cox, he's only a tenth away from LH44. He's right in his diffuse. That was incredible time to get back up to them. Right, let's see what happens. Jonathan Cox is pushing the limits of this track here. He's really trying to get behind him, but I think it's probably his downforce, as I'm saying, that dirty air really getting to him. And I think he's just struggling to stay that close behind him and keep pace without losing his rear tyres in this wet weather. So, as we see again, round in this last corner, Tarumba's caught up to him again. He's now within that 1 second radius. Obviously, won't have DRS at the moment, but who knows? Tarumba's just done the fastest lap of the race so far. He's still only 2 tenths behind him. He's having to go a little bit to the right just to try and get a little bit better visibility, and also to try and get a better line through that corner. So, let's see, just down the line. So Optics is about half a tenth off of Extremist. Those two good friends are just battling it out at the moment. But we've also seen Jake Lee, who's 5 tenths behind Tentoon. Still, he's stuck behind that driver. Tarumba has caught another 2 tenths up to Jonathan Cox. Whereas Jonathan Cox is having a moment. FT's pitted, he's obviously broken his front wing there. But yeah, Jonathan Cox is struggling for grip on these tyres. This could be a painful couple of, I wouldn't even say couple of laps, maybe 10 laps on these tyres for Jonathan Cox, because he has really got to try and stick with LH4 and hope that as soon as the track dries out, as soon as he's not, that's a big mistake from LH44, he's gone onto the grass, and here we go, Jonathan Cox, a great angle here. Is he going to have enough? He's going alongside him into the turn. Is that enough? He's pushing him out wide. Jonathan Cox has just got the lead here, but this is the thing. LH44 has the inside line. He's giving him enough room here. Okay, let's see. Inside line again. Oh, no. There we go. Battle over for now. Jonathan Cox has managed to get ahead, and he's finally through. That mistake from LH44 just taken too much time out of his tyres. And here we go. LH44. Can he get the comeback? Is Tarumba gonna battle them both? Obviously, Jonathan Cox and Tarumba were the 2 fastest guys on track who in qualifying, but is LH4's race pace going to really upset things? As we see already, Jonathan Cox has got a second out over LH44. Has he clocked out? Is he just going to keep going? You could see exactly how much that dirty air was affecting Jonathan Cox. Are we seeing the same thing here for LH44? Or is it just a case of, in that dirty air, Jonathan Cox couldn't get fast enough, but now he's free, he can just fly. But he's back within that 1 second window. Obviously, at the moment, it doesn't matter for DRS, but as we move on for the race, it might do, as we've just seen Jake Lee, obviously other than FT, who got it during the accident, Jake Lee getting that. Oh, here we go. Grimo's had a big incident there. What happened there? Okay, Optics has just got another time penalty, so there you go. Optics and Jake Lee have both got 3 second time penalty, so it means that no matter how close they are to that driver in front, especially Jake Lee, who's been really trying to get past Tentoon, he's not going to get any further unless he can pull out a 3 second gap. Optics at the moment, he's a second and a half behind Extremist. I think he's just trying to get out of that dirty air, to be honest, to make sure he can just stabilise his tyres. Obviously the worry is here that you can completely kill off your tyres, especially these intermediates, and then as soon as it starts drying up, you've got no choice but to go on to intermediates because the softs aren't ready at this point. And that's the worry that a lot of these drivers are going to be facing. They don't want to be taking too much time out of their tyres, so that when if the track dries up, they can go straight onto softs. The thing that will kill your race is if you're having to do one more stop than everyone else because you pitted too early. Tarumba is still making inroads on LH44. However, at the moment, it looks like Jonathan Cox has completely clocked out. So Sozon Pat has just overtaken Grimo in the pits, because I think Grimo must have had an incident on that hairpin in turn, I think it's turn 8, which is a big, no, it's turn 5, there we go, which is a big issue point for a lot of drivers, because the moment you catch that slight kink on the curb, on the inside, you're gonna spin, and you can't stop it. And obviously that's what happened there to Grimo. He's now out behind FT. He's 8 seconds behind. Let's see if FT can make any inroads on the top guys. He probably won't have to pit, but everyone else will. Now if it stays wet, FT's going to be looking quite happy there, but if it goes dry again, FT's made one more pit stop and it is going to get a bit hairy for him. So as we see, in 2 laps, Jonathan Cox has gone from about, I'd say, half a second behind LH44 to 3 seconds ahead. That is incredible. Tarumba is still trying his best to overtake him. Don't worry about that clocking out of gear 3 there. That will just be because of the stream, not because of the fact that he's having issues with his gears at all. But let's have a look in the middle of the pack as we see Optics has gained another second on Extremis. He's managed to get back within half a tenth, or half a second I should say, not half a tenth, that would be right in his diffuser. He's managed to gain half a tenth again on Extremis. Is he going to have enough in him to be able to overtake him on this lap? Extremis seems to be struggling a little bit. As we reach lap 7, this is the thing, these tyres are going to start playing up for a lot of people, and if you've not got a lot of grip going around this rain, it's not like in the dry where you just lose a couple of seconds. You are losing a couple of seconds and having some serious moments of grip loss where you could spin your car, especially around here. It can be treacherous. You've really got to watch yourself, really got to nurse your tyres, which is probably why LH44 has managed to back off a fair bit, purely because of the fact that he doesn't want to be that close to Jonathan Cox and completely do his tiring, or Jonathan Cox is just absolutely flying as he pulls out another second from last lap. So we stay with Optics. He is staying in that second gap in front of Extremis. We are expecting some more penalties, as we've seen Sozon Pat get one. So who knows exactly where Optics might finish. I don't think at the moment, lap 8 into 35, he's necessarily got to worry about the fact he's got a 3-second penalty. You worry about getting any more, but maybe some other drivers are going to join him and it won't be as bad of a thing. He is pulling it close there, going on the grass. I have to be honest, he's got to watch it through this corner as well. As we see him again, he's now in 2 tenths, and there you go, Super Steve's just gained one. So Super Steve's now in danger of falling behind Extremist if they were to finish like this. FT and Jonathan Cox are trading. Oh, that's a bit of a lunge there from Optics. He's lucky not to take his front wing out there, but it might have just been the fact of the braking zone. When you've got when you're right behind someone, it's difficult to judge it. Not only is it that, but also your braking zone's a lot further behind than it usually is because you've got a car in your way. Oh, and Optics get another 3-second time penalty. That is now up to 6 seconds. That is rough. We will see now exactly how everyone's positions changed. Obviously, LH44's probably been the best person on the track in terms of changing position other than Optics. Obviously, Extremist, Optics, Gary and Tentoon all started in that order. They've all just moved up 4. FT is obviously spun out, so is Grimo and Sozon Pat. So Jake Lee's obviously losing 1 in that scenario. He's been overtaken practically by the other 4. So Optics, he's still 6 tenths off, but we'll go up to Tarumba now, who seems to be a little bit further on, but we'll see about the tyres. That's the one we want to see. So Tarumba, he's still staying in this sort of zone. I think they're very tactical at the top of this grid. They know exactly what might be coming. They know the fact that the track's going to be drying. They know the fact that they've got a pit stop soon. And they're just sort of saying, oh, you know what, I'm going to wait. I'm not going to push it as LH44 again. He may be conceding a place here because of the fact he gets onto the grass going through these sectors. He's just not going to have any grip through those tyres, but he just manages to stay ahead. He's really just clipping this grass, and it is playing havoc with his race. It is really difficult for him to stay on the track at points because of the lack of grip. He's now 7 seconds behind Jonathan Cox. You just wonder whether Tarumba would have been able to keep tabs, I suppose, on Jonathan Cox if he wasn't stuck behind LH44. Now, at the same time, 7 tenths is quite far back. It's not like he's right in his radiator every single lap. He does get up to it, but I don't think Tarumba is that much faster than LH44 at the moment. He might be playing, you know, a bit hard to get. He might be sticking back a little bit. Obviously, he's got 69% on his overtake there on his ERS, so he's obviously saving that, whereas I mean LH44's even on 81, so he's obviously saving. So these guys, they're playing the long game. What's Jonathan Cox on? He's on 93. He's doing so well, but as we see, Extremists get a 3-second time penalty, and all of a sudden, as I said before, these gaps are now back in force. They are 5 seconds ahead of Gary in 7th, so these three are now battling for track position. As we go back to this, I am going to quickly switch back, because again, Tarumba is now 3 tenths behind, but again, in the braking zones where really that's where you'd expect, if you're being held up by someone, you're going to be right in the radio of someone. It doesn't feel like Tarumba is that far. Oh, Optics again with the penalty. But it doesn't feel like Tarumba is that far behind in terms of pace of LH44, but he's just had a better exit there. Let's see if this is going to make any difference. Tarumba is faster than his fastest lap, but he's gaining a little time. He's using his ERS, but it's not enough. LH44 is obviously just battling a little bit harder. As we go down, we'll go and see Optics and the Extremist and Super Steve. Again, this first corner, I tell you now, if it ends up being dry, this first corner is going to be immense, because the braking zone is so deep. It's such a hard braking zone that if you can get a dive bomb from about 5 tenths back. Now, I think dive bombs get a bit of a hard rap, because you get some dirty drivers who do dive bombs from too far back and go into the side of you, but say Extreme, he was 3 or 4 tenths behind going into that big straight, get up to about 2 tenths, 1 tenth. A dive bomb there is not too bad. You've got to be careful, because Super C could just turn in. Really, what people consider as a dive bomb of being like within your radiator is not a dive bomb. That's just a late braking. It's what Daniel Ricciardo made his name and passing about. But we'll soon see. As we see Tarumba again, he's only 3 tenths behind him, 4 tenths behind him, going into this penultimate corner, this final corner, I should say. It's interesting, you know, he is still in the same place every single lap, which does speak to me that these two are either completely on par, or Tarumba is ever so slightly faster. But LH44 is just putting his car in the right places every single time. He's covering the apex, he's never really leaving the door open. However, as Tarumba is this close to him, this is where things can get a bit dicey if LH44 gets on the grass again. Of course, these guys are still yet to get any penalties. We don't know what might happen there. It could all go up in the air though if we get some dry weather in the next, I'd say, couple of laps. I reckon lap 15 we're going to get dry weather, and it's going to get spicy then. I think that's what these guys are all hoping for, because if not, we'd have probably seen some pit stops in the next, I'd say, 6-7 laps. If we get to lap 16 and these guys haven't pitted, they're waiting for something. But we'll soon see. Obviously, they've got Jeff in their ear, whereas we don't. We don't know exactly what the weather's doing. They might be hearing that it's still another 10-15 minutes, as we see Jake Lee get another time penalty. But he is, again, it does feel like these guys are just stuck in the same place, not being able to get anywhere because of this wet weather, because of the lack of DRS, because they haven't got the traction they maybe would do if they were on slightly younger tyres or slightly better looked after tyres. It just means that they're just stuck. As we see, Tarumba is now only 2. Is he going to get a better exit going underneath here? The switcheroo can work there if you're in a dry, but again we are stuck behind each other. Right, let's see if Tarumba can get any closer going through this sector. I think this is where you start losing it. Sector 2 is where you have to back off a little bit, because being that much in someone's grill, or I should say radio, I should say. Oh, as we see another massive moment for LH44, that is going to be a warning for track limits, but that might have messed up his grip on his tyres a little bit. He's getting dicey up there. But yeah, because of the grip on these tyres, they're just not able to get anywhere on it. But as soon as we're in dry, as we see the back end going of Tarumba, these cars are losing grip fast. The Extremist and Optics are still right behind each other on Super Steed here. I think a move is getting necessary here, because now here's the thing. Trained F1 drivers, they can be patient. Amateur, semi-professional league racers, nah. Just like we see in the virtual GP, there's sometimes a lot. That's a big, oh no, virtual safety car. Here we go. Okay, that's not, I'm surprised that's not a full safety car, because there we have Gary 71 ploughed into the side there in the at the end of sector 2. What I can imagine there is that he's just put too much going around this corner. If he just gets onto the grass there, he's just going to clip over. So virtual safety car is still going. This is really going to neutralise a lot of the race, but we may see some people pit as we see Jake Lee go into the pits. Right, so Jake Lee's gone into the pits now, which means he genuinely believes that going on to another set of intermediates is going to be faster for him. That's interesting. We have got another green light again. So we see Optics and Extremists again returning to their battle. I mean, what was I saying? These guys are not trained F1 drivers. We saw in the virtual GP races that sometimes drivers just go, you know what, there's not a worry about, you know, breaking my leg if I go flying into a barrier. I'm just going to put everything I can into it. There's none of that fear instinct in there if you do get things wrong. It's probably why we saw Gary there in the wall, because as you get round to that outside edge, you're just going to go, you know what, I'm just going to put the power down. You can't feel it. Oh, that's a big moment for Optics. He just got stuck on the grass, and that has ruined his chances of getting ahead of the Extremist at the moment. He may catch up. If he does, that'll be really interesting, because it'll mean the pace of Super Steed is keeping them up. But we return back to the battle at the front. Jonathan Cox has just left them. He's done a Hamilton. He beat his time in pole for pole position, and now he's just like, right, I'm off. Don't worry about me. I'm going to go race my own race. It's like a practice session. 5-second penalty, pit speed in the pit lane for Optics. That is bad. Shall we have a look what that brings his penalties up to? If we go onto here, penalties up to 14 seconds. Wow. That's a lot. 14 seconds is a lot. He's gone on to intermediates as well. Yeah, Jonathan Cox, he's just gone. LH44 is obviously keeping pace. We'll keep him as a leader at the moment, because unless something big happens, safety car, mess up in the pit stops, Jonathan Cox is clocked out. Tarumba is right behind him. We are seeing people pit for intermediate tyres. For me, that's saying we're not seeing. Oh, we still go in. The rain has lightened up, but we're not seeing dry, I'd say, conditions, at least for another 7 laps. We're going into the 20s, I'd say. So I think this is going to be an interesting race now. We see Tarumba, who is obviously trying to hold out. These guys are really pushing at each other now. Don't know if Tarumba's got any wing damage. Doesn't look like it there. He's probably got a bit of a dorsal fin missing there though. Anyway, Tarumba is only 4 tenths behind. The Extremist is still battling alongside Super Steed. Optics has come out ahead of FT, so both of them have made one stop, but FT has still lost time. Not much, but lost time overall. Optics is flying, as we saw last race. He ended up winning the race on track, but was disqualified because he started on the wrong tyres. But he had some serious pace. You see Grimo get another 3-second penalty. So penalties are all over the place. At the moment, the best person probably in position is Tentoon Stelling, if he can catch up with the likes of the Extremists and Super Steed. At the moment, they're completely fine with their penalties. They're not going to be affected. They're far enough back from Tarumba and Super Steed that it's not going to affect them. So as we see LH44, he's right in his he's right in his rear diffuser there. Tarumba can't get much closer. He's got some serious control over how close he's getting to that car. But let's see, as we come out here, LH44 has not got an amazing... Let's watch it from Tarumba. Is he going to go for the move? He's not. He's getting very close. I do apologise for the gear issues there. It's not because that's what's actually happened. It is just because of the connection on the stream. Don't know what's happened. Right, pit window has now opened for a lot of people for a one-stop going straight onto intermediates. But as you can see, we are looking like it's getting drier. You can see openings in clouds there. Are they going to hold out? I'd honestly say they're going to be looking at about lap 20. I think if by lap 20 I was still on intermediate tyres and it wasn't looking any drier, you're looking like you made a bit of a bad decision. Because if you pit again, you've already lost a lot of time to those guys who are on fresher tyres. And it'd be interesting to see where Optics comes out in comparison to Extremist. So Extremist comes out in comparison to Optics. So, as you see them round this chicane, these guys are still battling with each other. However, Extremist has backed off a bit. Tarumba has gotten right alongside LH44, going around the penultimate corner as we round into the final bit just before turn 14, the final corner. Let's see if he can get a better exit. He was right in his diffuser last time. LH44 seems to be struggling with grip, but Tarumba just can't get the traction he needs to get faster than LH44 going into that straight. Tarumba does look like he's braking a lot later than LH44 and he's getting onto the power a lot earlier, but he's just not managing to get past him. We saw early on in the race, Jonathan Cox was really stuck behind LH44. We thought it's because they were equal on pace. However, now Jonathan Cox just blew past him and he's clocked out. Can Tarumba do the same? Can Tarumba catch Jonathan Cox and give us that battle we were all hoping for when we saw qualifying, when they qualified very close together? At the moment it's looking like LH44 is really doing Jonathan Cox a huge favour here, but we'll soon see how it all lands out. We see Extremist is getting still quite close. FT and Optics are very close to Sozonpat here. I don't... if Tarumba gets within 3/10 again going down that straight, it doesn't look like he's going to be. But if he does, I'll switch back to them. At the moment we're watching Optics and FT, who are within a second of Sozonpat. These guys are seriously quick. I'm not saying that Sozonpat isn't, but he's on a lot older tyres, which could make a massive difference as we see Tarumba getting 2/10 off. Okay, let's see. He's on overtake. He's within 2/10. Is he going to go for the move? He doesn't. Oh, he tries to go around the outside. Is he going to get a better... oh, that's a bit of a... he's late on the accelerator. LH44 is there. He doesn't trust the grip he's got in those tyres. He's obviously struggling on 18 lap old tyre. But, importantly, I don't know if you guys have noticed, the rain has stopped. Are we going to see these guys wait until this track dries? It doesn't look like it's drying very quickly, but are we going to see them wait until it's dry and then try and go onto softs? Or mediums? I'd probably go onto mediums to be honest at this point. Or are we going to see them have to just blast it out on these intermediates until it maybe gets dry enough? As you can see here, LH44 just can't get the traction he needs. Coming out of these corners, he's under serious fire from Tarumba here. Can he get anywhere? Tarumba is right behind him. Is he going to go for it into this braking zone? He does. He may overshoot himself and LH44 gets back onto it. Let's see here as we go around turn 13. We go around the massive hairpin and Tarumba has the inside line and he's got the move done. That was incredible from Tarumba. He's just managed to just pick the right moment. LH44 was struggling on those tyres for the past couple of laps. That was an amazing move as we see going through that turn, and now he makes to try and catch Jonathan Cox. Make a note, people. We are now... He's now 18 seconds, 18.5 we'll go with, at the start of lap 20. Is he going to get any closer throughout the next 15 laps? The track is drying. LH44 has already fallen back by 2 seconds. That's how much faster Tarumbar is on these 19 lap old tyres. Are we going to see Tarumbar manage to get there? I think LH44 is going to have to pit. He cannot stay on these tyres. He's just got zero grip, and I wouldn't be surprised if everyone else is struggling the same amount. But is it time to go on to softs? Have the likes of Optics and FT and Jake Lee and Grimo and Sotopat made the right choice pitting a little bit earlier, even if it's on lap 3? Is that the best choice? Because are these guys really going to struggle that much on these older intermediate tyres, or is it time to pit onto softs? Well, onto dry tyres. As Extremist gets another penalty, that does sour the thing. Alright, let's see. Oh, I think that is LH44 who's had an incident. Right, we will keep an eye on what's happening up ahead. LH44 is running very slowly. Has he got a puncture? He has. His left rear tyre is punctured. That's how much he was pushing these tyres, guys. That is why 19 laps on intermediate tyres is not enough. Super Steve passes him into the podium places. This is not what you want to see if you're LH44, who had been amazing up until this point. Getting onto getting into P2 from P4 and just managing to stick with it. Let's see what he pits onto. This is the moment, guys. He's going onto another set of intermediate tyres. Oh, but Extremist takes a gamble. Okay, this is the one we want to look for. As we've seen already, Optics has gone, and this is a four-way battle going down the hill, guys. As we see FT just backing off there, Optics has managed to get out in front. Sozonpat has just driven his teammate off the road. Tentoon Selling is going to be so annoyed, but his tyres are still okay. 20 lap old tyres. This is a battle to watch, but I think honestly Extremist is just losing time and more time after going onto those medium tyres. It is just too early, maybe only a couple of laps, but these guys are really struggling on this 20 lap old tyres. It is puncture territory everywhere, and the person who's coming out on top is RRC Optics. He pitted a slight bit early just because he made a mistake. Yes, he's got 14 seconds of penalties, but if everyone else pits one more time than him, he's going to be sitting there so happy. So, we'll soon see how it works out. Honestly, I think you just have to wait. We just have to wait and see. Super C is now pitted. Is he going to go onto the dry tyres, or is he going to go onto intermediates? You can tell that these 20 lap old tyres are they're just not doing enough. So he's gone onto another set of intermediates. So where's Super Steve come out in comparison to his teammate LH44? He is right in the middle. No, so LH44 has passed him. So obviously pitting onto brand new intermediates has worked out. Jonathan Cox and Tarumbar are obviously hoping they don't have a Lewis Hamilton moment and have to limp home on 3 wheels. They are hoping that their intermediate tyres, they nurse them enough to make sure they last when this track is dry. It is almost there, people. We are really, this is nail-biting stuff. We may see Optics manage to nail his strategy and pit at the perfect time in order to get to the point where he's then pitting onto dry tyres and go into the end of the race on dry tyres in 3rd position with Sozonpat behind him, FT right behind him, who span in the first couple of laps, which meant that he ended up going way back. LH44, who has since pitted onto the intermediate tyres, only 5 seconds behind them. Jake Lee behind them on 7 lap old intermediate tyres. Super C behind them, just pitted again. And then we have the 2 gamble makers, and we're going to watch them at the moment just to see how their traction is doing. They are going to have to really limp home. Obviously Extremist has gone onto these laps earlier. Actually it says the same lap, but there we go. Grimo has just passed them both. that just shows those intermediate tyres just have so much more grip at the moment. It is not quite the right time to pit. We will have a look. So as soft tyres, they obviously think this is the right time. Is it in the... We see these guys pitting onto dry tyres. We'll have to wait and see. So it's lap 23. What did I say to you guys? That on lap 20... On lap 20 he was 18.5 seconds behind. He's now 16.2. Yes, Jonathan Cox is pitting. It is obviously time for the dry tyres. So let's see. Has Optics nailed his strategy? I think he has. Yes, he's 14 seconds ahead. He's got a 14-second penalty. We see DRS enabled. It is the time to go on to some dry tyres. I think everyone's going to be going on to mediums. It's the right call, if you ask me. Purely down to the fact that if they don't go on to medium tyres, they're going to have to pit again. Mediums can last those 10 laps. I mean, it's close call. Optics is just coming around the penultimate corner now, and we will soon see whether he's going to pit. Honestly, I can't see why he wouldn't. As we see, is that LH44 having an incident? I don't know if he's got a broken front wing, but something happened there with LH44, which meant that there was a yellow flag in Sector 2. As we see, Optics is pitted, Jake Lee is pitting, and so is LH44. Jake Lee is up to 4th, and he's just not got the grip. He almost runs into the wall there. Oh, and Super C is pitted right behind. Oh, no, he hasn't. He's had to go straight on. Oh, Super C has been shafted by the fact that he and his teammate tried to pit at the same time. Sozompat has gone in to go up to 4th, but Super C, that is unlucky. To be honest, if he'd have sat behind his teammate in that pit stop, he might not end up losing the same amount of time as he will, going round on an intermediate set of tyres on a dry track. But up the front, we've got 11 laps left, and Tarumba has made 2 seconds in 4 laps. Now he's onto the medium tyres. Is he going to start making more? As we see Sozompat easily making his way around Super C. Super C is just obviously struggling around here. We see FT up into 5th after his spin. He will obviously make that 4th, but can he make that 3rd, passing Sozompat, who may have to pit again? Oh, Super C is just blocking his way. He's going to have to get out of the way there. That's a good thing to do. Obviously he didn't have to in terms of the... Well, that's unlucky for Jake Lee, getting another 3-second time penalty, but he didn't have to in terms of track position, but on a much worse tyre he had to get out. So Sozompat is currently on soft tyres. None of those are right in terms of how long they've been onto them. I don't think Sozompat's only been on these for 0 laps. But now, by my recollection, soft tyres can last up to 9 laps. Fastest lap for Sozompat 1:22.0. But yes, they can last up to 9 laps before they really start hitting puncture territory, before you really start losing a lot of time. The crossover between soft and medium tyres is on soft lap 5 and lap 15 for mediums is when they reach the same point. Obviously anytime before that, they're faster after lap 5. Now, we're only got 12 laps left. Jonathan Cox has just gone fastest, and Sozompat has just completely binned his car. That's going to really do some damage to his front wing. You can see he's got a lot of understeer there, but that in principle brings FT up to 3rd position. What an amazing comeback from FT, as we see Tarumba and Jonathan Cox trading first place, trading fastest laps. Honestly, this is a mesmerising race. FT coming from the back of the pack after lap 3, spinning out and managing to get first, get up to technically 3rd, with, I'm guessing, Sozompat having to pit here. I'd be surprised if he doesn't. Yes, FT's 38 laps, 37, no, I think he'd be 39, won't he? Seconds behind Tarumba, but the fact that he's managed to get himself back up there is an incredible feat, and he's done really well in that. So, as we see Sozompat pit, he may go on to the softs again. He's obviously got 9 laps left. So, we rejoin, I'd say, what is now race positions. Sozompat going back onto the soft tyres. so he may be a lot faster. LH44, who was in second, it's such a shame. Obviously he got that puncture. He then had to pit 4 intermediates. It just didn't work out for him. But we have our top 3, and we have Optics 4 seconds behind. The closest battle on track currently is between Jake Lee and the Extremist. We're going to stay with these guys as they just enter Sector 2. They go around the hairpin, and we're going to stay with these guys as we go round the track. I want to see how how DRS pulls for these guys. Or as we see Jake Lee have a bit of an incident there. Now he's lucky that the braking zone for the next corner is quite far on, because it means that he won't lose too much time. But that is a bit of a disaster lap for him. But he might be able to get back up. He's only 1.4 behind him. The Extremist is on 3 lap older medium tyres, but more importantly, both Toon Stelling and the Extremist were the ones who first pitted onto medium tyres when it was wet. That is going to have had a really bad detrimental effect on the life of those tyres. Come the end of the race, Jake Lee may really have a lot more pace over those guys. We'll have to wait and see, as we see Tarumbar's now 15.5. I think that actually means he's actually lost time to Jonathan Cox, who's now lapped some guys. So I think Sozonpat downwards will finish a lap below the leaders, which isn't too bad as long as they aren't battling with anyone. Obviously Super C being last, it's such a shame for Super C because he was doing really quite well, and then he had to go into the pits, but the issue was his teammate was right in front of him, so instead of pitting at the same time, he stayed out on intermediate tyres, and it's just not worked out for him. Sozonpat obviously had that damage, that's why he's so far down, but he's on soft tyres. He's 9 seconds behind, but has he got the pace to catch LH44 of all people? I'm not sure, you know. The Extremist is gaining on 10 Toon Stelling, even though he's got harder tyres. He's obviously just driving the car a little bit better. He's using a lot more ERS to try and get within, and he's got it. He's got within DRS zone. Is he gonna still be with it? He is. He's gonna have DRS going down this straight. So right, he's starting the straight, 7 tenths behind him. Is 10 Toon Stelling gonna? No, he's not using any of his overtake. I'm not sure he's 100% certain how far behind the Extremist is. So the Extremist is now going out. So he's only gained a 2 tenths really. So we'll soon see as we get another DRS zone. The Extremist is now within DRS of the car in front. This is where dirty air starts to really play in these cars. The Extremist is now going to feel, as we go through Sector 2, the pull of his car to understeer quite badly, especially in slightly older tyres, especially on a very newly dry track. He's going to really struggle at points to get his car to do the stuff he wants to. So staying within that DRS zone through Sector 2 is going to be really difficult for him. He's managing to do it so far. He's actually gained time through Sector 2. Throw whatever I've said out. Obviously I'm wrong. The Extremist is doing completely fine. Another 3 second time. I think that brings him up to 17 seconds for RRC Optics. That is a shame because he's doing really well, but it does mean he probably will finish. Oh, LH44 has overtaken Jake Lee. Where did that come from? Right, we're going to watch the Extremist as he goes around this corner. He's going to have DRS on 10 Toon. There's absolutely nothing 10 Toon can surely do. However, the Extremist has barely any. He goes for the aggressive line around the inside. Does 10 Toon. Oh, they just collide a little bit, but it looks like for now things stay as they are, as Extremist again gets, he gets DRS there but can't do anything with it. So yeah, as I said before, just before we cut to that, Jake Lee has been overtaken by LH44. I'm unsure exactly how far away they were from each other, because for me I thought Jake Lee was a lot further ahead. Obviously he's had a bit of an issue, but LH44 obviously being as fast as he is, he's just shot off. Sozonpat has gained time on Jake Lee. He's now only 8 seconds, whereas I think he was 9 before, was he? But the Extremist is just, he's almost pushing 10 Toon Stelling along. He's got a little bit more pace going through Sector 2. As I was saying before, that's a part of the track it's really difficult to follow. I'm obviously wrong. Is he going to go for a bit of a dive bomb? He isn't. He's going to wait. He's going to wait and try and stay as close as possible until he gets round the final corner. Now, 10-2 standing has to defend the inside line. It's the only way he's not going to be able to lose that position. If he defends the outside, he can try and do the switchback, but it's just not going to be enough. As we see, the extremists have basically got no... There we go, no ERS left. We'll watch 10-2 standing. He's stayed behind. He's going to try and do the switchback. He did defend the outside. He shouldn't have done, because it just means he's going to have absolutely nothing left to defend here. And there we go. The extremist has stayed ahead. Obviously with DRS, there's only one DRS detection point. I believe there might be two actually. I think that's the second one going. No, that's the exit of the pit lane. But yeah, there's only one DRS detection point then, so it means that if you get DRS and make that pass into that first corner, the second DRS zone is there for you to stay ahead. Obviously, LH44 is right behind these guys. We know how fast this guy is. We know that he's got a much earlier tyres on than these guys do. They pitted 2 laps earlier, and not only that, it wasn't just 2 laps earlier, it was while it was still wet. These guys' tyres are going to be aching to get off right now. So we see 10-2 standing getting very wide there onto the grass. I don't think his effect is right, but it does mean that LH44 is going to have to back off into this penultimate corner, almost helping 10-2 standing there. So as we see him go around this final corner, he's just not able to get the power on as early as he wants to, but he has managed to get it on. Let's see if he can get if he can get ahead. Obviously 10-2 standing is defending the inside line there. He goes back to the outside to try and get a better braking point. LH44 is now ahead and stays it with the DRS. 10-2 standing could do nothing about that. He's using DRS to try and get back to him, but LH44 has him covered and he just speeds off. Maybe not as fast as he wants to, but let's see how far up LH44 can get. Obviously we know that Optics has currently a 16-17 second time penalty, so let's see. So from the leader, LH44 is 14 seconds, no, 10 seconds. Am I mathing right? Yeah, it's 10 seconds behind Optics. No, he's not. Here he is. Because he's catching on the extremists that fast. But let's see how many penalties he's got. Oh, he's only got 12. Oh, because he's... right. I'm being silly. I didn't realise he'd served his 5-second penalty in the pit lane, but of course that makes complete sense. We'll go back to interval and we'll stop that. Right. So, LH44, only 3/10 behind Extremis here. He's on a surge. He's past Jake Lee. He's past Tayin 2. Is he going to pass Extremis going down this straight? I don't think he is. He's got no overtake. He may be able to, because Extremis has absolutely nothing. He could have probably dived bombed there, but he doesn't want to, because he might be able to make the move here. Again, he's only 2.5. No, it's going to be still too close. Maybe on lap 33. How far up can LH44 get? He's going to be 8 seconds behind Optics, so he'll be 4th with no penalties. That's a pretty decent showing from someone who was 9th 3 laps ago. I'm just going to put it out there. LH44 has done amazingly. Obviously, not as amazingly as the likes of Turumbar or Optics, I'd even say. Optics might be getting... as we see 10-2 getting his first time penalty. That is a shame, because it does mean that he may fall behind. No, Jake Lee's got a lot more, so it probably won't make any difference to his position, but it may mean he doesn't finish ahead of Optics now, who's now 11 seconds ahead. 11 seconds, should say, behind FT. My drive of the day will probably go to Optics, just due to the fact that on position he's done really well, managing to get up to 4th from someone who started 8th or 9th, I think it was. Obviously he managed to pull off his by accident, I'll put it that way, pull off his strategy by... There we go, the Extremists and LH44 are battling. I should have stayed with these guys, do apologise guys, but as we go down into this final corner, we see the 3 of them, because that is that's where they've ghosted out, is because that is Jonathan Cox ghosting through. That is the leader, who's currently 18 seconds ahead. Turumbar always had absolutely nothing to fight against. There's no way he could have caught up to him, unless Jonathan Cox has a massive issue here because of the braking zone. I doubt anything will happen. There is, as we see, LH44, who was at one point, I'd say, this far behind Jonathan Cox in the first couple of laps, is now being lapped by him. But LH44 has made his way past Extremist, which does mean he is now net 4th. So for now, it'll be interesting to see where Optics is finishing. At the moment, by my calculation, he's actually finishing, I'd say 7th. I think Extremist, his, Extremist's penalties are not anywhere as near as severe as Optics. It's only got 12 seconds, Optics does. But I do think even with the 3-second penalty, if he can't keep up with LH44, his tyres, he's just got no grip on these guys, has he? But if he can't keep up with LH44, I have a feeling the Extremist may fall so far behind that he ends up not being able to finish ahead of Optics with the 12-second penalty. Optics may be finishing 5th here, which I think for him is an incredible result. And we'll go down to a bit further down the line as we'll see Jake Lee and Tentoon Selling here obviously battling. Jake Lee's on a lot younger tyres, as we've just seen there with Extremist, and he gets another 3-second penalty. As we've just seen there with Extremist, these guys who pitted onto medium tyres when it was still wet are struggling on these tyres. Sozonpat does look like he's also struggling on soft tyres, he just hasn't got the grip. Tentoon gets another penalty from someone who didn't have a penalty before that. He's got another penalty. Tarumbar's got a penalty now. These guys, as I said earlier in the race with Optics, you don't have to worry if you get a penalty early on, because a lot of other people are going to get them. And there we go, this is the end of the race. Jonathan Cox has now won. We'll see Jake Lee over the line as well. FT has just finished. He's not been... There we go. We'll watch Tarumbar as he also crosses the line, finishing 2nd. An amazing performance from both Jonathan Cox and Tarumbar. FT, let's see where he comes out with his penalty. I think he's only got a 3-second. He's finishing 3rd. An amazing comeback for FT. Someone who spun out within the first couple of laps to come back and finish 3rd. Yes, 38 seconds behind, but no one's going to be looking at that. They're just going to be looking at 3rd. What an amazing performance from him. He locks up his tyres going around the penultimate corner. As he goes around the final corner, we'll see where he turns up. And the last person to cross the line who wasn't lapped is Optics. So FT finishes 41 seconds behind the leader in the end, but still on the podium. An amazing podium to see. Well done, Jonathan Cox, Tarumbar and FT. Absolutely sublime driving today from all three. Jonathan Cox just, after passing LH44 in the first couple of laps, he flew and couldn't be caught. So well done to all of them. That was an amazing race. I'm genuinely pleased to have commentated for it. I hope you guys have me back again and again. I'm not surprised Optics does get driver of the day, purely because he managed to get up from 9th to 5th. I would personally probably give it to actually FT now. I'm reconsidering. I'm going to give it to FT, purely because he managed to spin out and still finish 3rd. Well done, everyone. So you see the finale here with these guys just accepting the trophies. Who knows what this will look like next year? We don't know. Will there be 2 Ferraris? As I said at the start, 2 Ferraris on the podium. Has their bad luck ended? We don't know. Will it end with Sainz? I don't know. I think Sainz has got a good chance of beating Leclerc. I do like both of them, but we'll get the final classification and then we will end the stream. So Jonathan Cox in 1st, Tarumbar 2nd, FT in 3rd, Optics stays in 4th, LH44 in 5th, Extremist 6th, Tentoon Selling in 7th, Sozonpat 8th, Jake Lee 9th, Grimo in 10th, Super C in 11th, and then Gary, who did not finish, the only one to not finish. Well done, guys. I've been Nat. You've been great. Thank you very much.